Beloved chosen one, pause. What you're doing this moment is sacred. You didn't find this message. It found you. Heaven has aligned timelines, disrupted distractions, and overridden algorithms to bring this word directly into your spirit. Right now, you are standing in the middle of a divine interruption. And what you do between now and the 26th of June will not just shape your season, it will define your scroll. This is not another motivation. This is not a feel-good word. This is a warning wrapped in mercy, sent not to shame you but to summon you. The atmosphere around you has changed. The spiritual climate is heavier. You felt it. The tension, the pressure, the urgency. Something in you knows the time is short. The inner stirring that's been keeping you up at night. The sense that something is shifting. That's not anxiety. That's prophecy whispering. That's heaven pressing in. You've been set apart since birth. People have misunderstood you, labeled you, isolated you, but that was by design. You were never meant to blend in. You carry too much light. You were crafted for divine disruption. You walk into rooms and shift atmospheres. Darkness recognizes you before people do. You are marked. But even the marked must respond. God has been speaking. Maybe not loudly. Maybe not even in words. But you know, deep down, you know what he told you. Whether it was something to lay down, or someone to walk away from, or a bold step to finally take, he already made it clear. This message isn't a revelation. It's a reminder. And now, you've reached the crossroads of destiny. Between now and the 26th of June, heaven is watching. Not with arms crossed in judgment, but with eyes full of expectation. You have entered into what the Spirit calls a measuring moment. Your steps are being weighed. Your response is being recorded. The question is not, will you be blessed? The question is, will you obey? Chosen one, understand the weight of what is unfolding. There are certain windows that don't reopen, certain gates that close if not crossed in time. What's happening now is not just about opportunity, it's about alignment. Heaven moves in patterns, not pity. It honors response, not routine. As it was declared in Luke chapter 10, verse 19, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. But authority unused is authority forfeited. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another voice. What you need now is movement. Your next step will activate what has been held up. Prophecies have not died. They've been waiting. Angels have not left. They've been paused. Obedience is the key that unfreezes the heavens. The fire you've walked through wasn't meant to consume you. It was meant to crown you. That betrayal didn't break you. It built the altar you now stand upon. Every sleepless night, every battle you fought in silence, every tear you wiped without applause, it was preparation. God trusted you with pain, so he could trust you with power. But power without obedience is dangerous. You are on heaven's radar. Not because you're loud, not because you're perfect, but because your spirit is awake. Because your name has been mentioned in divine counsel. Because your story has been marked with oil. This moment is not for everyone. Others may ignore it. Others may scroll past it. But not you. You are the one God whispers to at midnight. The one whose prayers shake rooms. The one whose obedience will ripple through generations. You've been asking God for more, but heaven is waiting for you to move. He will not beg. The Spirit will not force. Angels will not drag. This is your invitation and it will not be repeated. God says, I have given you the word. Now give me your yes. Do not delay. Delay now is disobedience in disguise. Your next act is not small. It's a seed. And what you do before the 26th of June determines what will bloom in the next season. There is a specific instruction, and you know exactly what it is. Don't rationalize it. Don't water it down. Obey fully. Move boldly. Chosen one. This is not a general calling. This is a prophetic deadline. God is not looking for the popular. He is looking for the obedient, for the yielded, for the remnant. And that is you. Heaven has seen the warfare. Heaven has seen the tears. But now, heaven must see your movement. Do not make the mistake of assuming there will be more time. Many miss divine doors, not because of rebellion, but because of hesitation. Do not hesitate. Move. Speak. Sow. Forgive. Good deeds. Shift. Release. Whatever He told you to do, do it now. This message is a line in the sand, and your response will define which side of it you're standing on when the 26th of June arrives. Comment 777 below as a prophetic act that you have heard, and that you will obey. You've heard the whisper, felt the stirring, but still, part of you wonders why now. Because this moment is unlike any other. What you're sensing in your spirit is not a passing emotion. It is the vibration of heaven brushing up against earth. It is God's breath bending time to speak to the ones who can still feel Him. And you, chosen one, are one of the few who can still discern the divine in the midst of the noise. There's a reason this message found you. Not just because you're special, but because you are accountable. God doesn't send warning to those He's written off. He doesn't whisper to those He's already judged. No, He warns those He loves. He corrects those He is still willing to elevate. And He's calling you before the deadline passes. You may not see it with your eyes, but a holy shaking has already begun. In the unseen realm, decisions are being made. Paths are being cut. Scrolls are being unrolled. The angels are moving, not with chaos, but with precision. And they are watching. This is the part few will understand. God is not loud when He's most serious. When His Spirit comes to inspect, He does not roar. He watches. He weighs. He searches for response, not reaction. And many will miss it, not because they were unworthy, but because they were distracted. He's been whispering to you through patterns, that repeated thought, the dream you couldn't shake, the scripture that kept appearing when you weren't looking for it, the friend who said something in passing that hit your spirit like thunder. That wasn't coincidence. That was the mercy of a God still trying to reach you. The truth is, heaven never shouts when it's time to obey. Heaven watches. There are decisions you've put off for months, maybe years, but time has expired on some of them. What used to be a window of grace is becoming a closed door. Not because God is angry, but because the weight of destiny demands momentum. What was once optional is now essential. What was once gentle suggestion has become divine command. You are not being asked to act for His sake, but for yours. Because what waits on the other side of obedience isn't just favor, it's clarity. You've been asking for answers. But God doesn't answer questions that require faith. He waits to see your faith in action. You'll understand what you need to understand once you move. You are not behind. You are right on time if you move now. Think back. The restlessness you've felt lately, the unease, that wasn't fear. That was your spirit discerning the gap between where you are and where you're meant to be. It's the distance between your current place and your appointed one, and the clock is closing that gap fast. No more delays, no more detours. The weight is only getting heavier because your destiny is getting closer. God doesn't build slowly in seasons of acceleration. He demands swift obedience. Soudain, yes. Immédiat se rende. And that's where you are. The crossroads between comfort and calling. There is one thing, one act that has been hovering in your heart. You've avoided it. Maybe it's forgiving someone. Maybe it's finally ending a relationship. Maybe it's sowing a seed that feels impossible. Maybe it's writing what he told you to write. Starting what he's been nudging you to start. Or leaving what he already said is no longer yours. Whatever it is, you already know it. You've just been delaying it. But the delay has now turned into danger. Not because God is mad, but because the window is shifting. And you don't want to be found on the wrong side of a closing gate. God is watching, not to catch you failing, but to confirm your faith. He trusts you enough to test you. He loves you enough to let silence surround you, because he knows something you may not yet see. What you do now determines what you carry next. And the next is heavy, glorious, unshakable. But it requires weight-bearing obedience now. So breathe deep. Chosen one, there is still time. Not much, but enough. Mercy is still leaning forward. Heaven is still watching with anticipation, not wrath. You haven't missed it, not yet. But what you do next will decide whether this moment becomes a memory or a movement. Chosen one, you can feel it. Can't you? The silence around you isn't empty. It's sacred. It's heaven waiting. This is the pause before the shift, the stillness before the thunder. What you're standing in is not a void, it's a test, a divine observation room. And you are the one being watched. Not watched in judgment, not watched in suspicion. Watched with purpose. Every thought you've wrestled with in secret, every hesitation that's pulled at your feet, every tear you've swallowed alone, heaven saw it. And now heaven waits to see if you trust enough to move. You're not here because you've failed. You're here because God believes you're ready. But that belief must be confirmed in action. This moment is not about emotional hype. It's about eternal consequence. You don't need to feel it to follow through. You just need to trust the voice of the one who's never lied to you. Because what you don't see but what God sees is that your obedience in this hour will unlock a gate no man can shut. A gate guarded by angels. A gate tied to timing. A gate that swings not with force, but with faith. Don't miss this. The enemy has increased the pressure because he sees the oil being poured. The warfare is confirmation, not contradiction. Your mind has been under siege. The voices have gotten louder. Confusion has whispered louder than truth. But that's because your breakthrough is closer than it has ever been. The enemy doesn't fight what's not rising. But this moment is about your yes. Your quiet yes. Your trembling yes. You're scared but surrendered yes. You don't need to announce it to the world. God isn't looking for noise. He's looking for obedience in the secret place. Because what's done in secret always manifests in glory. Let the Spirit speak this deeply. You're not stuck. You're stationed. This place of waiting isn't punishment. It's positioning. But that positioning is only useful if you realize what's really happening. You are being observed. Angels are watching not just what you say, but what you do. Your spirit has been marked. Your name is known in realms you cannot see. And right now, The eyes of heaven are on you, not for shame, but for report. What you choose next becomes the evidence of your alignment. You've asked God to move, but now God is asking you to move first. That's the pattern of faith. Obedience doesn't wait for the door to open. Obedience walks toward it, expecting it to swing. This is the test few recognize. How you respond in silence proves who you are in the Spirit. Because if you only obey when the skies are loud, you've not learned the rhythm of the remnant. And you, chosen one, are a remnant. You've been through too much to turn back. You've cried too many hidden tears to disobey now. You've been stripped of too much to delay again. Your obedience now is the signature on your scroll. Don't worry about being understood. The instruction wasn't given to the crowd, it was given to you. The vision wasn't shown to everyone, it was placed in your hands. The urgency isn't felt by all, but it's pounding inside your chest. That's not accident. That's heaven's fingerprint. This is what the prophets never told you. Silence doesn't mean absence. It means inspection. God is walking through the garden of your life, calling out to see if you'll answer with obedience instead of excuses. And now, the angels are standing by, not to open the door for you, but to witness whether or not you walk through it. There's a sacredness to this moment. You can feel it. It's not hype. It's holiness. Even if your hands are shaking, even if your heart is uncertain, even if your steps are slow, let your next move be obedience. That's all heaven needs. Comment: I will obey. Let this simple act echo in the spirit realm as proof that your heart is aligned with heaven's call. There's a reason your atmosphere has shifted. The peace that once comforted you feels distant. The joy that used to visit easily has been strangely absent. The heavens are not ignoring you, they are inspecting you. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on you. This is the season where the silence of heaven becomes the loudest form of communication. Not every delay is punishment. Not every pause is demonic. Sometimes, the quiet is sacred. It is God stepping back to see if what he whispered was enough. You are being trusted with silence. You've known what to do. That instruction wasn't vague. It wasn't complicated. You received it clearly. And yet the longer you delayed, the heavier your days began to feel. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. Because in the kingdom, delayed obedience is still disobedience. And while grace is still present, the weight of destiny requires movement. You are not in the same spiritual place you were a year ago. The oil on your life demands deeper accountability. The calling on your name demands quicker obedience. There are moments in your journey when your next level isn't accessed by prayer, but by movement. And you are in one of those moments now. God is still speaking. He just isn't repeating. He's already told you what to do. Now he is watching what you do with it. Not to trap you, not to punish you, but to prove that your yes means more than your emotions, more than your comfort, more than your logic. Because what he's preparing to release through you can't be built on hesitation. Your life is a vessel for more than survival. You were never called to just make it. There is fire in your bones that was meant to burn through generational patterns, dismantle démonique cycle, and disrupt darkness. But that fire only ignites fully in obedience. This is why it feels heavy, because it is. You've asked God to take the pressure off. But what if the pressure is not an attack, but an alert? A divine signal that your moment has come. A holy press to move you out of the familiar into the realm of fulfillment. And fulfillment doesn't wait for your feelings to catch up. It demands your spirit to lead. Your comfort zone will always argue with your calling, and your future will never agree with your excuses. Right now, the Spirit is watching how you handle instruction without reassurance. If you only obey when you feel goosebumps, you'll miss the greatest shifts of your life. Because the most prophetic moves are made when nothing around you looks supernatural, yet everything inside you says, "Move." This is where faith is proven, not in miracles. In movement, you've cried out for answers, but answers are on the other side of action. You've asked God to open doors, but the door was always unlocked. You just haven't reached for it yet. You've been saying, "God, speak again." And God is saying, "Child, obey what I've already said." Heaven is consistent. It will not release a new instruction while the last one is still sitting ignored. The angels assigned to your life have not departed, but they are not messengers in this hour. They are witnesses. They are recording not what you feel, but what you do. And what you do now proves what you believe. Even when your legs are shaking, even when your voice trembles, even when you're still healing, obedience is not about readiness. It's about recognition. Recognition that this is holy ground, that this silence is not punishment, that this pause is not rejection, that this moment is not emptiness, it is evidence. Evidence that you've been trusted to hear what most cannot, to carry what most won't, to move when most freeze. This is the proving ground of the chosen. Not loud, not celebrated, not confirmed by man, but deeply, undeniably sacred. You're not here by accident. You're here because something sacred in your spirit pulled you to this moment. You didn't just stumble into this message, you were drawn. And deep down, you know why. The weight you've been carrying, the heaviness pressing on your chest, that's not ordinary. That's spiritual. You've been under divine surveillance. Not as a threat, as a vessel, a carrier of something holy, something urgent, something heaven refuses to let you sleep on. The warfare you felt lately isn't random, it's a reaction. Hell has seen what's about to be released through your obedience. It knows the impact your yes will make. That's why the confusion has intensified. That's why everything that could distract you has come knocking. That's why your mind has been under siege. The battle isn't about your past, it's about your next step. But here's the truth. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't rising. And you are rising. Not in the way the world measures it, but in authority, in discernment, in weight. Your yes is unlocking scrolls. Your obedience is awakening angels. Your alignment is disturbing the gates of hell. You've wondered why the resistance is so personal. It's because your calling is so specific. Your anointing is so disruptive. Your light is so dangerous to darkness. God is not calling you to blend in. He is calling you to lead. And not from platforms, but from purity. This is your moment to rise into the calling you've been carrying in silence. To walk boldly into what you've only whispered in prayer. You've been hidden long enough. Now heaven is pulling you forward, not for applause, but for assignment. But even in that, you are not alone. There is a remnant rising, others like you, who've been marked by God, misunderstood by man, and molded by fire. They, too, are being summoned in this hour. And together, you are part of something bigger. And right here, through this space, we are building that remnant. This is not just content. This is a movement. And if this word is stirring your spirit, consider being part of building what God is doing. When you like this message, it pushes light into dark spaces. When you share it, It becomes a prophetic seed into someone else's breakthrough. When you subscribe, you stay connected to the frequency of what heaven is releasing, not as a follower, but as a participant. And if you've been led, feel stirred to sow into this message or partner with this movement, do it not out of pressure, but out of obedience. Giving isn't just financial, it's spiritual agreement. A prophetic yes, a declaration that says, I am part of this move, because it's bigger than a video. It's about preparing the way for the chosen to rise. But back to you, chosen one. You've been carrying something heaven refuses to let go, dormant. And the reason it won't leave you alone, the reason you can't shake this sense that time is short, is because you're right. Time is short. You're not in an ordinary window. This is a prophetic intersection. Heaven is leaning in to see what you will do next. This is not the time to pull back. This is the moment to lean in, harder than ever before. Even if you feel empty, even if you feel like you've failed, even if you feel forgotten, you are not disqualified. You are still chosen. The pain you've been through did not disqualify you, it trained you. It shaped you for the fire you're about to carry. And now, you must decide. Will you stay where it's safe? Or will you step into where it's sacred? Heaven isn't looking for hype. It's looking for obedience. Not tomorrow, not when you're stronger, but now, with what you have, with the mustard seed of faith you're still holding on to. You've asked for a sign. This is it. You've prayed for confirmation. It just came. You've waited for instruction. You already know it. Now, you simply must obey. And as you walk forward, remember this. You're not walking alone. You are part of a hidden army, a prophetic remnant, our chosen generation. Together, we rise. Together, we war. Together, we obey. Chosen one, what if I told you the 26th of June is not just a date, it's a door? This isn't about numbers on a calendar. It's about a spiritual gate opening in real time. Heaven moves in appointed times, and you are standing in one. You feel it in your spirit. Everything inside you has been tense, alert, restless, and yet somehow more awake than ever. That's because you've entered a prophetic window, and it will not remain open forever. Doors in the natural can be seen, but doors in the spirit must be discerned. And what you're discerning right now is not emotional. It's divine. Something is unlocking. Something is shifting. Not just around you, but in you. The Holy Spirit is not only speaking, He is positioning, aligning, inspecting. Heaven isn't wondering who is qualified. It's watching who is ready. And you, chosen one, are being invited to step through a door others won't even recognize exists. Many will live as though the 26th of June is just another day. But not you. You've already felt the press in your soul. You've already noticed the difference in the atmosphere. You've already seen the signs, even if you couldn't explain them, because heaven is whispering, I am opening a door that no man can shut. But that door is only accessible through obedience. You cannot fast your way through it. You cannot worship your way around it. You must walk through it by faith, with obedience as your key. This is why the pressure has increased, why your mind has felt pulled, why people around you have started acting strange, why you've felt overwhelmed for no clear reason. It's not confusion, it's confirmation. Your spirit is reacting to a spiritual moment that requires movement. This is not about doing more, it's about doing what He said. That one thing, that single act of surrender, that unshakable Yes. Heaven is not watching to see if you're busy. It's watching to see if you're in position. There's a reason the enemy has tried so hard to distract you, to delay you, to push you into fear or overthinking. It's because he can't close the door God has opened, but he can distract you from stepping through it. That's why your time has been attacked. That's why your focus has been scattered, because if the enemy can't stop the door from opening, he'll try to make sure you never walk through it. But not this time. This time, you will move. You will obey. You will enter in. Because what's waiting on the other side of this door is not just a new season, it's a new level of authority, a deeper revelation, a weightier mantle, something you were always meant to carry but could never access until now. And it's personal. This isn't about a crowd. This isn't about everyone else. This is between you and God. You've cried in secret. You've obeyed when it hurt. You've carried weight no one else could see. And now, heaven is honoring that history with a holy invitation. But you must decide. The door does not stay open forever. And when it shuts, what was once grace turns into a missed moment. Not because God stopped loving you, but because heaven moves on schedule, not emotion. You must discern the time. The door is open, but only for the obedient. The clock is moving, but only those in alignment can see what time it truly is. You're not behind, but you are on notice. This is your hour. Your instruction isn't random. It's revelatory. It's positioning you to step into places you didn't even pray for, because they were written into your destiny long before you were born. You may feel unqualified. You may still be healing. But heaven didn't choose you based on perfection. It chose you because your heart still says yes, even when it hurts. That's all God needs. Not flawless faith, just a yielded heart. You've been asking for change. It's here. You've been asking for breakthrough. It's behind this door. You've been asking for purpose. It's on the other side of obedience. And now, you must walk forward. Don't wait until the 26th of June to act. Move now. Obey now. Shift now. Because by the time that date arrives, heaven will have recorded your response. Let the angels see your readiness. Let the heavens witness your faith. Comment 444 below as a prophetic declaration. I see the door, and I will walk through. This number is not superstition. It's symbolic of divine doors, alignment, and spiritual release. Let it be a marker in the realm of the Spirit that your heart is ready, and your feet will follow. You've been sensing the weight of something invisible, haven't you? Like an atmosphere you can't name, but you can't ignore either. Everything around you feels ordinary, but inside your spirit, it's anything but. That's because what surrounds you right now isn't chaos, it's a test. A divine examination. One so quiet, so disguised, that many will miss it. But not you. You are in the middle of an invisible test, and everything matters. The way you respond, the way you wait, the way you worship, even when you don't feel a thing, it all speaks. And heaven is listening not to your volume, but to your consistency, not to your performance, but to your posture. This is not about perfection. It's about positioning. You've asked why things feel stuck, why the answers haven't come, why the open doors seem slow. But what if the question isn't, why is it taking so long? What if the real question is, have I passed the test I didn't know I was taking? Because this isn't punishment, it's preparation. God never promotes those He hasn't proven. And right now, You're being proven, not in front of people, but in front of angels, not on a stage, but in secret. And it's the quiet tests that determine loud futures, the invisible tests that birth undeniable authority. You are not being ignored. You are being inspected. This is the type of test that doesn't come with warning signs. It won't be obvious. You won't get an alert. There's no countdown clock. But if your eyes are open, if your spirit is alert, you'll see it for what it is. You'll see that the pressure you're under is part of the grading process. And the Holy Spirit doesn't grade like man does. He's not watching for flawless execution. He's looking for surrendered obedience, for trust, for unshakable yeses when everything around you says, wait. You've been asking for elevation, but heaven never elevates those who haven't first been examined. You're not just in a test, you're in a transformation. Because every test from God reshapes the soul. It doesn't just measure your faith, it matures it. It doesn't just weigh your obedience, it deepens it. It takes what was shallow and makes it solid, what was casual and makes it sacred. That's what's happening to you now. You've outgrown where you've been, but you haven't yet stepped into what's next. And that in-between space is where the test takes place. That's the space where God proves whether He can trust you, not just with promise, but with pressure. Not just with visibility, but with responsibility. And He doesn't test with words. He tests with silence. That's why it's felt quiet. Not because you've been abandoned, because you've been trusted. God only tests those He plans to trust with more. And you, chosen one, are being trusted with something heavy, with legacy, with authority, with oil, with revelation. But only after the test is passed. You're not waiting on something to change. You're being watched to see if you will. You've already been shown what obedience looks like. The instruction has already been whispered. The door has already been opened. Now heaven waits not with impatience, but with purpose. This isn't about a moment of worship. It's about a lifestyle of obedience. Every response you give in this hour is weighty. Every attitude, every private decision, every internal surrender, they all matter. Because this test isn't for heaven, it's for you, to show you what's really in you, to bring the hidden things to light, not to shame, but to shape. And what's been rising in you lately, those longings, those ideas, those visions, they are not delusions, they are previews. God doesn't tempt you with dreams He doesn't intend to fulfill, but He does test to see if you're ready to carry them. This test is not about failure, it's about refinement. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. You've asked for impact, but impact without integrity destroys. And this test is about your integrity in silence, your integrity in solitude, your integrity in obedience no one else can see. Because if you can be trusted in private, you'll carry power in public. This is why it feels intense. This is why the inner war has increased. Because what's being tested is not your behavior, it's your belief. It's your faith. It's your willingness to say, even if I don't understand, I will still obey. That is the gold heaven is searching for. Not performance, not perfection, but posture. The test will not last forever. But what it produces will. This moment is short, but the glory it births is eternal. You may not see it now, but you'll look back and know that test in the quiet was the moment everything changed. Hold your ground. Stay in position. The testing is almost over. And the next sound you hear will be the sound of release. Chosen one, It's no longer about how much you know, it's about how deeply you obey. There's something God has been watching for. Not your eloquence in prayer, not the way you lift your hands during worship, but what you do when no one is looking, when there's no applause, when the pressure is real and the reward is invisible. Those moments are sacred because they reveal who you really are. And heaven is watching not to catch you in weakness, but to confirm your readiness. You've been asking for breakthrough, but God is watching for obedience, not just partial compliance, full surrender. Because breakthrough doesn't begin when your circumstances shift. It begins the moment your will bows. And right now, all of heaven is leaning in, watching to see if you'll do the one thing that's been lingering in your spirit. That instruction that keeps resurfacing, no matter how much you try to reason it away. That one step you know you must take. That act of faith, of sacrifice, of trust. The one thing you've been postponing because it costs you something. But chosen one, obedience always costs something. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be holy. You are standing at the edge of something bigger than you can imagine. You can feel it. Your dreams have shifted. Your discernment has deepened. Your heart has grown keener, more watchful, because your spirit knows something sacred is drawing near. But before heaven can release it, your obedience must be complete. God is not holding back because he's angry. He's holding space, waiting for your next move. Because he's not just calling you to receive something, he's calling you to steward it. And what's coming carries too much weight to be placed into careless hands. You were not designed to carry light things. You were built for glory. And glory requires surrender. What you're carrying is heavy, not because it's a burden, but because it's sacred. The reason it feels like so much is because it is so much. The reason the tests have been intense is because the next season will be powerful. The reason you've been stripped is because what you'll carry next must come through clean hands. You can't take shortcuts into what's holy. God isn't just calling you to a new place. He's calling you to a new posture, to live lighter, cleaner, sharper, not out of legalism, but out of loyalty. Loyalty to the assignment, loyalty to his whisper, loyalty to what you know deep down is true, even when your feelings scream the opposite. This is what separates the crowd from the chosen. Not perfection, but posture. Not status, but surrender. You're not being asked to understand everything. You're being asked to trust everything. To trust that what he said still stands. To trust that your steps are still ordered. To trust that even when it looks like nothing is happening, heaven is aligning things you cannot yet see. This is the moment where trust matters more than evidence. You've heard his voice in the past. You've seen him come through. You know his character. So now, when it's quiet, trust what you know. This is the stretch few are willing to endure. The stretch of obeying, with no reward yet in sight. The discipline of doing what's right, even when no one applauds. The beauty of following the cloud, even when the fire has not yet appeared. Chosen one, you were born for this level of trust. It's not a coincidence you're here now, that you're hearing this, that your heart has been stirred with urgency. It's because heaven knows. You are one act of obedience away from divine acceleration. Not the kind that just blesses you, but the kind that changes everything. That opens generational gates, that heals bloodlines, that breaks curses, that rewrites stories. But it begins with one decision: to obey. You already know what it is. You don't need more clarity. You don't need another confirmation. God has spoken. Heaven has waited. Now it's your move. And make no mistake, heaven will move with you, not before you. That's the divine pattern. When the priest stepped into the Jordan, the waters parted. When Abraham raised the knife, the ram appeared. When the widow poured the oil, the jars overflowed. Movement releases miracles. You will not see the full picture before you act. That's not how the kingdom works. You will not receive comfort first. You will not get a detailed plan, because obedience is not a contract, it's a covenant. And covenant demands trust. This is your moment of covenant alignment, of saying yes, not because it feels good, but because it's right. Of moving, not because it makes sense, but because God said so. You're not just stepping into a new chapter. You're stepping into a divine convergence, where what has been promised begins to manifest, where what has been delayed is suddenly released, where what has been hidden is now revealed. But the gate doesn't swing until your feet step forward. Chosen one, this is your holy moment. The instructions you carry are sacred. The oil on your life is rare. The calling is heavy, but it is yours. And now, heaven is watching to see what you'll do next. Chosen one. The shaking you feel inside isn't fear, it's awakening. What others call restlessness, you've known as preparation. That stirring in your chest. That feeling that something is coming. Something must shift. Something must change. That's not emotional noise. That's prophetic urgency. It's the Holy Spirit aligning your spirit to the divine rhythm of heaven, because the time has come, and you know it. This is not just about obedience anymore. This is about impact. What you've carried in silence, God is about to use publicly. The long nights you spent praying without words, the moments you've wrestled with God in secret, the burden you couldn't explain to anyone else. All of it is about to become oil. Glory doesn't come without crushing, but the crushing you've endured has made you ready. There's a reason you've been set apart, a reason people misunderstood you, a reason the doors didn't open when you expected. It's because your assignment is rare, and rare callings require rare conditions. God wasn't punishing you, He was perfecting you. He was building strength into your foundation before giving you the weight of your destiny. But now the time for preparation is shifting into activation. The realm of the Spirit is vibrating with movement. You can feel it in your bones. Not case alignment. The click of divine order snapping into place. But here's the truth. Most don't tell you. Alignment isn't comfortable. It demands shedding what's unnecessary. It calls for radical clarity, and it will cost you what you were never meant to carry into the next season. And so, the real battle becomes internal. It's not about whether you've heard from God. You have. It's not about knowing the next step. You already do. The tension now is, will you trust Him enough to act before it feels safe? Because that's the faith He's after. Not faith for things, but faith that moves things. Faith that isn't about shouting in worship, but walking out His word. Faith that looks foolish to those around you, but is magnetic to heaven. The kind of faith that puts Isaac on the altar, that builds an ark in the absence of rain, that surrenders even when there's no guarantee of how it ends. You are being invited into that kind of faith. And if you felt like the attacks have increased, that your emotions have been unruly, that your focus has been scattered, take it as proof. You are dangerously close to something the enemy cannot stop. So he's trying to make you forfeit it instead. The enemy can't shut the door, God opens. But he will try to make you too tired, too discouraged, too doubtful to walk through it. Don't give him what he can't take. You have come too far. survived too much, endured too long to let fear speak louder than obedience. Everything in your life right now is pointing to this moment. That sense of acceleration in your spirit, that divine discomfort, that urgency that won't leave you alone. It's all confirmation. Heaven is circling around one simple question. Will you move when it's still unclear? Because if you will, everything changes. Obedience in this moment won't just bless you. It will ripple through generations. Your children will feel the impact. Your bloodline will experience the freedom. The chains that held others in your family will break off you and never return. This is more than a personal decision. It's a prophetic act. You've cried for this shift. You've prayed for this breakthrough. And now, God is saying, move, and I'll meet you there. You don't need to be certain. You just need to be surrendered. You don't need a sign. You are the sign. And what happens next will be remembered in heaven, not because of the results, but because of the obedience. You don't carry ordinary oil. What flows from you will anoint atmospheres. What breaks in your voice when you speak will shake hearts. What you've endured will translate into authority. You weren't just chosen to believe. You were chosen to shift things, to command change, to release prophetic momentum, to tear down and to build. And every act of obedience sharpens your spiritual weapon. That's why this moment matters. Don't treat it casually. Don't rationalize it away. Don't compare your journey to others. Their test isn't your test. Their door isn't your door. What God is requiring of you is specific, weighty, necessary. So let heaven record that on this day, your spirit said yes, even when afraid, even when unsure, even when surrounded by uncertainty. Your yes still stands. Comment, I trust you. Say it not as an emoji of faith, but as a declaration of war. A marking in the spirit that even when the winds rise and logic fails, your answer remains, yes, chosen one. If you felt the pressure building, know this, it's not chaos. It's confirmation. You've entered a spiritual corridor few are brave enough to walk through, a place where the old cannot follow, and the new hasn't yet arrived. You are in the in-between the womb of transformation, and what feels like tension is actually preparation. Heaven is stretching your capacity because what's about to be poured into you will demand space. This is where most retreat, but not you, because you know what's stirring inside your spirit is not from emotion, it's from eternity. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment you've walked through has led to this moment, not to destroy your faith, but to deepen it, not to rob your fire, but to refine it. And now, God is asking for your final yes. You've said yes before, in seasons where it felt safe, in moments where there was confirmation, but this yes is different. This yes is final. It's the yes that doesn't wait for comfort or consensus. The yes that shifts timelines. The yes that angels recognize as authorization to move on your behalf. That's what this season is asking for. God isn't just calling you into obedience. He's calling you into agreement. Because when your spirit aligns with His will, all of heaven responds. The pressure you're feeling isn't punishment, it's positioning. You are being elevated without ceremony, promoted without fanfare, and the eyes of heaven are watching not to weigh your performance, but to confirm your posture. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't need a platform. You don't even need to have it all figured out. You just need to stay in position, because obedience is the position where miracles are born. And as this message is speaking to your spirit, Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you know is also chosen. Someone who's been wrestling, questioning, feeling the same divine weight. Sometimes, breakthrough comes through a word you didn't expect but arrived right on time. There is a remnant rising, and you're not alone in this. If this word has affirmed what you've been hearing in your own spirit, like it so that others are pulled into this stream. Subscribe to stay aligned, because heaven is speaking through every message released here, and those messages are building momentum. And for those who feel it stirring deeper, if God has placed it on your heart to give, whether a seed of faith, a gift of gratitude, or an act of alignment, follow that prompting, not out of pressure, out of obedience. Giving is not about transaction, it's about trust. It's saying, Lord, I'm invested in what you're doing here, because this is more than content, it's kingdom movement. Still, the most important offering you can give right now is your next act of obedience. And that obedience isn't always big or dramatic. Sometimes, it's a single message sent, a quiet prayer whispered, a boundary finally drawn, a step finally taken. Small in the eyes of man, but mighty in the spirit. God doesn't measure your acts by scale. He measures them by surrender. And make no mistake, He sees you. He sees the nights you stayed faithful when you wanted to quit. He sees the prayers you prayed that no one ever heard. He sees the silent decisions you made to keep going, even when you had every reason to give up. Heaven has been tracking your obedience, and now it's responding to it. You are on the edge of divine reward, not because you earned it, but because you endured, and your endurance has not been in vain. This is your confirmation that the spiritual pressure wasn't punishment. It was proof that you're about to give birth to something eternal. Something legacy-sized, something heaven-authored. But don't forget this. The greatest birthing always requires the greatest surrender. And you're in that final stage, that final push. Don't stop now. God didn't bring you this far to drop you. He brought you here to crown you. Crown you with clarity, with fire, with alignment, with weight. Your mantle has been waiting. Now heaven is simply waiting for your full agreement. And once you give it, you'll see things shift faster than you ever thought possible. Because acceleration always follows alignment. So, breathe deep. Chosen one. You're right on time. Heaven has not forgotten you. In fact, heaven has been waiting for this moment with more anticipation than you realize. And everything you've walked through is now coming into agreement. Your yes is not just heard, it's honored. There is a silence that speaks louder than any voice. You felt it. The quiet in the room when the prayers have been prayed. The worship songs have stopped. And all that remains is a stillness too deep to name. That silence isn't emptiness, it's evidence. It means the presence of God has drawn close. It means heaven has entered inspection mode. It means you've stepped into the moment when the divine stops speaking and starts watching. Chosen one, you are in that moment now. Not everyone will notice it. Many will mistake it for a dry season or spiritual warfare. But the ones who are truly aligned will discern the shift. They will know that when the cloud stops moving, it's not time to panic, it's time to hold posture. That when the whisper fades, it's not rejection, it's reverence. Because the greatest changes often happen in silence. Heaven isn't speaking because it already has. The word has already been released. The instruction already given. The path already illuminated. And now comes the part where your next step reveals what you truly believe. Obedience, when the voice is loud, is easy. Obedience in silence is sacred. You are not being ignored. You are being observed. God is not punishing you, He is positioning you. This season is not about what He will say next, but what you will do now. You've already received the word. Now the word is watching you. This is a holy test, and it's not designed to shame you or trip you. It's designed to extract your yes. Not just a yes in speech, but a yes in steps. A yes that shows up in how you choose, how you speak, how you endure, and how you obey. And the longer you remain faithful in silence, the louder your obedience becomes in the spirit realm, because every act of faith is a sound that pierces the atmosphere. There are angels who don't respond to noise, they respond to movement, to yielded hearts, to those who keep walking, even when they hear nothing but the echo of their own footsteps, to those who say, "I don't need another sign. I already have His voice." That is you. You've walked far without applause. You've stayed standing when others walked away. You've stayed pure when compromise would have been easier. You've stayed in alignment when your emotions told you to give up. That posture has not gone unnoticed. You are passing tests that others cannot even see. And the results are not in outcomes, they are in endurance. You are being marked, even now, as one who can be trusted with more. Not more visibility, not more possessions, but more weight, more authority, more responsibility in the kingdom, because God is not looking for the loud. He is looking for the loyal, and this moment, this silent proving ground, is where loyalty is forged. Not in the storm, not in the breakthrough, but in the steady days, the ones where nothing seems to move, and yet you keep saying yes. That kind of faith shakes hell more than 1,000 shouted declarations, because the enemy expects you to quit when heaven goes quiet. He expects you to start doubting, disconnecting, deconstructing. He's banking on your spiritual attention span being short, on your patience running out, on your faith being shallow. But every day you remain in position proves him wrong. And every moment you keep obeying in silence becomes a declaration to heaven. I trust you more than I trust my feelings. That's what God has been waiting to see. Not talent, not performance, not perfection, but trust. Do you trust Him when it looks like nothing is changing? Do you trust Him when it feels like no one sees? Do you trust Him when the answers don't come? Because those who trust in silence will roar in the next season. God is building something in you. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel it rising. The burden is real. The fire is real. The cost is real. But so is the reward. This isn't the end of the story. It's the final step before the shift. You're not in a pause, you're in a preparation. You're not being delayed, you're being deepened. You're not wandering, you're being watched. And what's about to be unlocked will not come through your words. It will come through your walk. So take another step, not because it's easy, but because it's right. You're not waiting for heaven to move. Heaven is waiting for your movement to finish what was started. And when it does, the silence will break. The winds will shift. The fire will fall. And you will not just be ready, you will be trusted. Chosen one. The silence has spoken. The test has been quiet. But now, something is shifting not just around you, but within you. The weight you've been carrying has not been in vain. Every hour of waiting, every day of questioning, every private moment where you whispered, "God, are you still with me?" Those moments were heard. And now, the heavens are preparing to respond, not with words, but with release. There is a rhythm in the spirit, A countdown few recognize. You've felt it. You've seen the signs. The timing is not coincidental, it's prophetic. The urgency you feel isn't emotional, it's instructional. The pressure on your life is not because you're weak, it's because you're next. This is the moment the obedient have been prepared for. There's something heaven has been waiting to release. But it's only handed to those who passed the invisible test. The ones who didn't move when it was popular. The ones who didn't demand signs or rewards. The ones who said yes in the shadows. And that includes you. You were tested when no one saw. Obedient when it hurt. Faithful in silence. You stood when the shaking came. You kept going, even when the skies stayed quiet. You worshipped when your hands trembled. And that is the kind of obedience that shifts generations. Now, the cloud is beginning to move again. The silence is breaking. The weight is lifting. And what comes next won't look like a gentle shift. It will look like divine eruption. Acceleration so swift. Favor so clear that it will seem impossible until you remember how long you've been obedient. This isn't a reward. This is alignment. When heaven sees full obedience, it responds with full release. There are people who've been assigned to help you, but they couldn't find you until now. Not because you weren't worthy, but because your readiness activates their arrival. Divine partnerships require divine timing. You're not stepping into blessing, you're stepping into order. This is not about comfort. It's about calling. The delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Because what you carry is not average. You don't walk with borrowed oil. You walk with cultivated fire. And that fire is what makes you dangerous to darkness. That fire is why you couldn't quit. That fire is why the enemy couldn't touch you, only pressure you. But you didn't cave. You stayed in posture. You stayed in surrender. You stayed on your face. And heaven never forgets the ones who stay on their face. Now, watch what God does with the ones who stayed hidden. Watch how he lifts the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the ones who said yes when no one clapped. You are one of them. You are part of the remnant. And this next wave isn't for the loud. It's for the loyal. You've been stretched to the limit. But even in the stretch, your heart didn't close. Even in the testing, your spirit didn't rebel. And because of that, there is a birthing happening. Not just for you, but through you. This next release will impact those around you. What was whispered to you will shake others. What was forged in your midnight prayers will break chains in their daylight. The authority you carry now cannot be explained. It must be experienced. And those who doubted you, who dismissed you, they will witness what heaven knew all along. That you were not forgotten. That you were not too late. That your delay was not denial, it was divine setup. And now, you step forward, not in arrogance but in anointing, not with noise but with knowing. You know who you are now. You know what you've survived. And you know that the time has come. You're not seeking platforms. You're seeking obedience. And from that place of purity, power flows freely. There are angels on assignment now being released because of your yes. There are scrolls unfolding, blueprints being opened, lands being handed over, not because of your strength, but because of your surrender. This is what happens when obedience is complete. This is the moment when the ones who obeyed in silence emerge in strength. So let the realms take note. Let it be recorded in the books of heaven that you didn't quit, that you bowed low and stayed faithful, that you waited well, and now, that you are ready. You are not late. You are right on time. You are not empty. You are full of fire. You are not forgotten. You are sealed. This is not the finish line. This is the unlocking. And what is unlocked cannot be shut. Comment 999 below. Mark this moment in the spirit, not as a superstition, but as a declaration. I have passed the test. I am ready for release. I am aligned. Let the record show your yes was real. Chosen one. There is a heaviness that comes before destiny unfolds, not the heaviness of despair, but the weight of significance, a sense that something is nearing. Something too sacred to ignore, too real to dismiss. You felt it pressing in the deep, knowing that the margin for delay is gone, that what used to be optional is now required, that the cost of hesitation has changed. This is not just about time. This is about alignment. Heaven is shifting things quickly, swiftly, with precision, and not everything will be explained before it moves. The ones who thrive in this shift are not the ones who understand everything. They are the ones who obey immediately. You've reached a point where delay doesn't just slow you down, it risks rerouting your assignment. Because not every opportunity is eternal. Some are divine intersections. And if you miss the turn, the road doesn't circle back the same way again. This is why the weight has grown. This is why the sense of urgency has pierced your sleep, your conversations, your still moments. It's not a warning out of anger. It's a mercy cry from the heart of God. Move now. Don't wait again. You've been here before. You've felt the stirring. But maybe in times past, you reasoned it away. Life got loud. Emotion distracted you. Comfort seduced you into postponement, and yet the instruction never left. It circled. It reappeared. It returned in whispers, in dreams, in unshakable conviction. And now it stands before you one final time, not as suggestion, but as command. Not because God is impatient, but because heaven is mobilizing. When heaven moves, it moves with or without our agreement. But those who move with it walk in power. Those who hesitate watch it pass by and wonder what could have been. And you are not meant to live in what could have been. You are meant to live in what God has written. But what's written must be walked into. No scroll fulfills itself. No prophecy manifests without cooperation. God is sovereign, but he partners with obedience. He uses yielded hearts to execute divine will. That is why your decisions now carry more weight than ever. And delay is no longer neutral. It is costly. Some doors don't close with noise. They seal silently. And many don't realize it until they find themselves knocking on something that no longer opens. Not because God is cruel, but because destiny respects timing. That's what you stand in now, a window of timing. It's not just about being faithful. It's about being faithful at the right moment. You've been faithful. You've been obedient in part. But this moment is about full alignment. The kind of surrender that does not wait for understanding. The kind of faith that moves when there is no map. The kind of trust that throws away the backup plan. You are one, yes, away from the shift. But that yes must be complete. The temptation to delay will feel logical. But faith is never logical. Destiny never waits on feelings. It waits on obedience. And the enemy knows this. That's why everything has felt harder. Why the noise in your mind has grown louder. Why your confidence has felt shaky. Because you are on the threshold of change, and hell always attacks thresholds. The threshold is sacred. It's the place between what was and what will be. The crossing point that demands decision. You are at that line now, and heaven is waiting to see if you'll cross it. Not out of pressure, but out of promise. Because on the other side of obedience is everything that has been whispered to your spirit in the quiet. Clarity, release, divine appointments, unlocked provision, healing where you didn't even know you were bleeding. But you must step. You must decide. You've been told before that God will wait on you. But there is a time when the cloud begins to move, and the remnant knows, if we don't follow now, we miss what only happens now. There is no more time to negotiate. What you've been called to release, release it. What you've been told to walk away from, walk away. What you've been prompted to begin, begin it. What God has been pressing you to complete, finish it. The hour is late, but the window is still open. Barely. Mercifully. Don't be like those who ignored the warning until the door closed. Don't assume there will be more time. This isn't fear, it's divine clarity. Your obedience now doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone connected to you. There are people waiting on the other side of your decision, assignments that are dormant because your yes hasn't yet activated them. Territories you've been given authority over, but haven't yet stepped into. Heaven has not forgotten your name. It is written on the scroll, but heaven is waiting for your next move to finalize the alignment. You are not being rushed. You are being readied. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being prompt. God has been far more patient than you realize. But even patience has its appointed hour. And now, heaven is calling your name not to reprimand, but to commission. The test is not whether you understand everything. The test is whether you trust the one who sees everything. You've been tested in the dark. Now comes the call to move into the light. Chosen one. The moment you've stepped into now will not be defined by how strong you feel, but by how willing you are to move, despite how much it costs. Obedience has become warfare. The very act of saying yes to God has placed you in direct conflict with everything familiar, everything safe, and everything that once gave you comfort. That's how you know it's real. Because obedience never leaves you where it found you. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. Obedience, in this hour, will feel like loss before it looks like gain. It will feel like letting go before you see what's coming next. It will feel like dying to a version of you that can't survive where God is taking you. This is why many say they want the glory but avoid the path that leads to it. Because the cost is too high for those still married to comfort. But not you. You've come too far. You've lost too much. You've endured too long to turn back now. And this moment of transition, this edge of the cliff feeling, is exactly where glory begins. The path is narrow, and now it gets even narrower. Because only the ones willing to lay it all down will carry what God is releasing in this next stretch. You cannot take old obedience into new assignments. You cannot carry yesterday's comfort into tomorrow's commission. Everything in your life has been leading to this. Every no you've ever spoken in faith, every yes that cost you friends, every decision to honor God in silence, every surrender that made no sense to those around you, it has all brought you here. And now, you are being called to cross a line with no map back. This isn't a metaphor. It's not a parable. It's a spiritual call to step fully out of partial surrender. You've given God access to parts of your life, but this step requires everything. No safety net. No plan B. No halfway submission. And this is why it feels like war. Because it is. It's not a war against people. It's not even a war against the enemy. It's a war between your will and your assignment. A war between what you want and what heaven requires. A war between the logic you've lived with and the faith you're being invited into. And wars like this aren't fought on stages. They're fought on your knees, in your closet, in your car, in the still moments when your heart says yes, but your mind says, what if? That is where obedience becomes holy. That is where heaven starts to lean in. Not when you feel bold, but when you obey anyway. You don't need confidence to obey. You just need surrender. You don't need proof that it will work out. You just need to believe that God is who He says He is. This next act of obedience is not about being fearless. It's about being faithful. And faithfulness looks like movement, even when the map is incomplete. There will be no applause for this step. There will be no cheerleaders in the background. But heaven will notice. The angels will record it. And the Spirit will confirm it. Not with comfort, but with peace. You may cry. You may shake. You may grieve the version of you that obedience will kill. But afterward, clarity. Afterward, wait. Afterward, fire. Because obedience invites glory. Not glory that glorifies you, but glory that breaks through atmospheres. Glory that makes rooms holy. Glory that turns silence into songs and ashes into oil. But first, warfare. That's what you're in now. And you must recognize it for what it is. This is not depression. This is divine tension. This is not anxiety. This is assignment pressure. This is not confusion. This is calling, colliding with comfort. Your mind is under siege because your spirit is about to take ground. The enemy does not attack what is asleep. He wages war against what is about to awaken. And you, chosen one, are not just awakening. You are becoming a threat. Not by shouting, not by striving, but by obeying. You shift more with a quiet yes than most do with 1,000 declarations. You destroy demonic cycles just by walking away when God says, enough. You realign generations when you surrender where others rebel. That is why it feels like your whole life is on trial right now. Because in many ways, it is. The trial is not about guilt or innocence. It's about readiness. And obedience is your defense. This season will not be defined by how spiritual you appear, but by how surrendered you are when no one is watching. You could choose to wait, to pause, to revisit this word later, but deep in your spirit, you already know. There is no later for this. You've asked God to show you His power, and He's asking you to show Him your obedience. That's the pattern. That's the divine sequence. And the ones who walk in the greatest authority are the ones who have been brought lowest by their surrender. You're not being demoted. You're being delivered from yourself, from expectations, from hesitation, from compromise, because obedience is never about what you're losing. It's about what you're being trusted to carry. So step forward, even if it costs your reputation, even if it means loneliness, even if it means laying down the familiar for the fire. Because obedience is the soil in which glory takes root. Chosen one, you've endured the shaking. You've stood through the silence. You felt the pressure mount, and still, you didn't fold. And now, you are rising. But this rise won't look like the world expects. You won't rise through noise or crowds or competition. You will rise through surrender, through obedience, through the quiet kind of yes that heaven honors and hell fears. You've entered a shift, not just in season, but in dimension. The realm around you is changing, and your spirit has felt it before your words could catch up. You've been restless, not because something is wrong, but because everything is realigning. God is moving the obedient into places where only the yielded can dwell, positions that influence lives, platforms that carry weight, rooms where silence speaks louder than status. And He's placing you there not for performance, but for purpose. You didn't ask for this. You didn't chase it. You simply obeyed. You walked through the fire and still chose to bless His name. You lost people and still chose to stay in posture. You heard nothing and still chose to follow. That's why the shift is finding you now. You were faithful when it cost everything. And now, heaven is about to trust you with more than you asked for. But let this be clear. This next phase is not for self-promotion. It's for kingdom impact. What God is building through you is not just a moment, it's a movement. And this space, this voice, this message you're listening to, it's part of that movement. We are calling the remnant, not the masses, not the casual, but those marked by fire. If you've been stirred by these messages, if your spirit has been bearing witness, don't keep it to yourself. Like this message, not for algorithm, but as an act of agreement, share it with someone else who's been sensing the shift. There's someone in your circle right now who needs this word. Your share could be their confirmation. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not for numbers, for alignment. These messages are not entertainment. They are a lifeline, a prophetic stream for the chosen ones who cannot afford to be spiritually disconnected in this hour. And for those of you who feel a deeper stirring, if you've felt the weight of this message anchor in your chest, consider sowing into this assignment. Your giving isn't about a transaction, it's about participation. It's a seed of honor, a prophetic echo that says, I believe in what heaven is doing here. Only give if the Spirit leads. Never out of pressure. Always from faith. Because movements are not sustained by applause, they're sustained by obedience. And some of you are called not just to hear the message, but to help carry it. To help build what's next. To stand as pillars while the sanctuary rises. But whether you give or not, whether you share or not, know this. You are being commissioned. This is the part where your private faith becomes public impact, where what you've carried in silence becomes visible oil, where the fire in your bones begins to ignite others. Because the remnant is rising, not all at once, not with trumpets, but like embers catching flame in the darkness, quiet, unstoppable, eternal. You are not alone. You are part of a holy uprising, a generation not led by fame, but by fire, not chasing platforms, but carrying presence, a people set apart not by outward appearance, but by inward obedience. This is the moment heaven has waited for, and you are one of the ones chosen to carry it. So rise not in pride, but in posture, not for attention, but for assignment. The earth is groaning, the nations are trembling, and heaven is releasing the ones who will walk with wisdom and war with worship. That's you. Everything you've been through has prepared you for this. And now, as this message comes to a close, let it not just end here. Let it echo. Comment, I carry fire. Say it not just as a statement, but as a seal. Let the angels read it. Let the realm of the Spirit record it. Let your future hear it, echo through time. And then walk forward boldly, obediently, completely, His chosen one. What comes next will not be triggered by another confirmation, but by a decision. Heaven is no longer repeating what it already revealed. The time for seeking signs is over. The season of watching and waiting has reached its final breath. Now comes the hour of execution, the moment where your next step carries more weight than any word that came before. You are not entering a new place simply because you desire it. You are stepping into it because you've been called, and now you must activate that call through action. The clarity you've asked for is already inside you. It's not that you don't know. It's that your flesh still wrestles with the cost of obeying what you know. That tension, you feel that daily internal pull, is the war between the familiar and the anointed, and it will not subside until a choice is made. But do not misunderstand this moment. It's not about performance. It's not about perfection. This moment is about posture. You will never feel ready for what God is calling you into. Readiness is not a prerequisite in the kingdom. Willingness is. God doesn't need your strength. He needs your surrender. And surrender always looks like a decision. Not once, not in theory, but now, daily, even hourly. The realm of the Spirit has shifted. There is acceleration in the air. Things are happening faster than they used to. Divine instructions are being time-stamped with urgency. Opportunities are being compressed into narrow spaces of obedience. And in that compression, heaven is watching, measuring who moves and who merely meditates. Some doors won't swing again. Some alignments won't return. And while God's love is endless, His assignments move on schedule. That's why you've felt the press. Why time has felt tighter. Why everything is demanding more focus, more clarity, more resolve. Because the grace to wait has been lifted. The grace to act is now. You're not being pushed. You're being invited into divine momentum. And momentum doesn't come from striving. It comes from obeying. Every major shift in Scripture began not with a miracle, but with a move. Abram went. Moses turned aside. David ran to the battle. Esther approached the king. Mary said, yes. And heaven moved because they did. That same principle holds now. You're not waiting for a supernatural interruption. You are the interruption. Your obedience is the spark. Your movement is the ignition. Nothing changes until you move. And when you do watch what heaven unfolds, not because you've earned it, but because you're finally aligned with it, obedience pulls the future into the present. It draws what is written into what is real. You are one decision away from divine motion. But don't look for applause. Don't expect the crowds. God moves in quiet power. And often, your greatest shifts will begin with the smallest steps. That person you know you need to release. That habit you know must end. That risk you've been afraid to take. That instruction you've shelved for months. It's time. Not tomorrow. Not once you feel better. Now. Because when you move, something breaks open, and the delay that has hovered over your life begins to dissolve. This is the pattern of the remnant. Quiet, radical, immediate obedience. Not because they want blessings, but because they cannot ignore the weight of their calling. And you, chosen one, were not called to blend in. You were called to execute what heaven has already prepared. You are not creating destiny. You are walking in it. There is nothing random about what's stirring inside you. Nothing coincidental about the instructions that won't leave your mind. You're not being emotional. You're being called. And now, obedience is not just a response, it's an activation. A key in the gate, a switch in the spirit. And once it turns, what has been held back will begin to flow. The places where it felt stuck, silent, delayed, those will be the very places where overflow begins. Not because you shouted louder, Not because you prayed longer, because you finally moved. And that movement will not just change your situation, it will change your posture. It will shift how heaven can use you. This is what you've been waiting for, and it has been waiting on you. You are not behind. You are being aligned. Now move. Chosen one. This is the hour where everything stands still, and yet everything is being recorded. You are at the precipice of a divine conclusion, not an ending in the sense of closure, but in the way a sword is forged through fire, silence, and then the final strike that seals its shape forever. You have endured the forging, you have stood in the fire, and now the hammer falls not to break you, but to mark you. Heaven has watched long enough. Your silence, your movement, your delay, your obedience, all of it has been measured. This moment is not a setup for punishment, but a preparation for power, because the ones who obey in the dark are the only ones trusted to lead in the light. There will be no fanfare. There will be no trumpet blast. But in the invisible realm, the weight of what's been recorded around your life is beginning to unlock scrolls that carry your name, scrolls sealed until obedience gave them permission to open, scrolls that release what the earth hasn't seen, but heaven has waited for. You are part of something few will ever understand. You've been invited into a realm that does not operate on logic or applause. And now, the atmosphere around you has shifted, not because something external changed, but because you've been internally altered. You're no longer asking God for confirmation. You're carrying out what's already been confirmed. And in that shift, you step into function. You don't need more prophecy. You are the prophecy. Walking, moving, manifesting the word made flesh through daily decisions. The spiritual realm is not moved by how loud you shout, but how deeply you surrender. Not by how much you ask, but how fully you follow. And that's what you've done. No longer a student of delay. Now a vessel of precision. No longer one who hopes the wind blows right. Now one who recognizes when the wind is the Spirit moving. This is the mark of maturity. Not just hearing, but executing. Not just seeing, but obeying. Not just believing, but becoming. And now you stand, not as the one seeking answers, but as the one carrying solutions. Heaven has placed something in you that is meant to answer the cries of others, and the release of it isn't far away. It's unfolding now. Even now, as you walk forward in quiet boldness, territories are responding to your yes. Doors are shifting open that didn't budge for years. Strategies are being revealed to replace your striving. Strength is rising not in your arms, but in your resolve. The resolve to remain faithful. The resolve to move forward. The resolve to stay low in posture while carrying high levels of power. And here is what you must hold on to. Nothing you've obeyed will be wasted. No cost was too much. No loss unseen. No private breaking unredeemed. Everything will be used. Every step counts. Every surrender is seed. Every yes is building legacy. So now, go forward, not with fear, not with fanfare, but with fire, because you carry it. You've walked through what most would have collapsed under. You stood when quitting was easier. You believed when nothing made sense. You surrendered, even when you were uncertain. And now the heavens know your name, not because you were perfect, but because you were available. And that availability has changed everything. From this moment forward, you walk not as one waiting, but as one walking out the scroll written before time began. Chosen one, your obedience has done more than unlock blessing. It has unleashed destiny. Chosen one. If this word found you, truly found you, then you already know this wasn't just content. This was confirmation, a divine moment, crafted not to entertain you, but to equip you. A message that pulled at your spirit, challenged your delay, and called your name in the quiet places. You've made it through every section, every moment, every instruction, and that alone is evidence of your hunger, your readiness, your seriousness about the mantle you carry. Now, it's your turn to respond. If this message stirred something in you, if it aligned with the fire that's already been burning inside, like this message so others are drawn to it. Share it with someone else who is chosen, someone who you know is standing at a similar threshold and needs this same clarity. Don't underestimate how powerful your act of sharing can be. It might be the very spark someone else has been praying for. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to stay connected. These messages aren't just moments, they're part of a movement. And God is building something through these words that stretches beyond screens, across nations, through generations. Finally, if you've been led, if you felt the weight of this word settle into your spirit, consider sowing into this message, not out of obligation, but out of alignment. Give only if the Spirit moves you. Your seed, your support, your partnership. It helps carry this assignment further. And before you go, drop a comment below, whether it's a declaration, a moment of agreement, or a sentence of surrender. Let the realm of the Spirit see that you were here, that you heard, and that you said yes, because your voice matters, your fire matters, you matter.